to Family Hour. We're here as part of the YAHOWAH blog. We moved upstairs to the library studio. We're going to resume our program on Qatsyr harvest with the prophet Yoel, which means Yahweh is God. I think we're at 222 in the process. But before we begin, and hello everyone, we have Kevin, who is Captain Short, Sir Short, as we call him up at the top. He is the gentleman responsible for all the wonderful shorts that we have as part of the various media outlets. We have Captain Kirk beneath Sir Shorts. He is our ultimate artist and illustrator, as well as our technician when it comes to the original alphabet that Yahweh and Moshe used so very long ago. And over in this other corner, we have Miss Leah, and Wookie is still smiling from ear to ear. Wookie and Asher were having a ball down there in the Rainbow Studio. So we do have him upstairs, and Wookie is saying, "Are you proud of me, Dad?" I did good, didn't I? Did that. So we are on a PG show on our Family Hour. So we are going to turn the show over here and now to Leah, who is going to introduce a song that I think is written by our very own Roger, who is quite the wordsmith. So this ought to be good.
Yes, this was a song produced by a Covenant member, Roger Bankston. He wrote the lyrics, and I took the liberty of putting it to score. This is a song called Hashem. And since, Yahud decided to pull a bait and switch, I decided that I would do the same. We would pull a bait and switch. Fair is fair. It's a lovely song. And if we would, let's play it now.
Okay.
A choice we chose strife. Do you know his name? He designed the arc, 3 doors to choose. He gave us the bow, his spectrum to show. He calls us out, a journey we start, of our own free will to be set apart. Do you know take the first step, walk away from mankind, your Father's house. His word is truth. Open your ears, your mind and heart. Do you know his name? He designed the ark, 3 doors to choose. He gave us the bow, his spectrum to show. He calls us out, a journey we start, of our own free will to be set apart. Do you know his name? Take the first step, walk away from mankind, your Father's house. His word is truth. Open your ears, your mind and heart. Do you know his name? Do you know his reputation or renowned fame? Yahowah, he led the flock, split the rock, he engraved his word for all to observe. His word is right, his words are true. He will not deny or close his eyes. We do not fear, we trust and rely. The blood of his covenant, the darkness of Sheol, the light returning, a promise prevails. Blood to redeem, relations to restore, light to adopt, infinitely more. His path is narrow, the promise assured. You have the key that opens the door. Do you know his name? Do you know his name? Yahowah is his name. Yahowah is his name. Standing grain becomes loaves, the choice is made clear. Ripe olives are gleaned at the right time of year. The shofar wails with joy and a warning. He arrives on his day, out the bridegroom king. He cleanses the world with fire and light. Evil among us, swept out of sight. Campfires glowing, brilliant and bright. Out of the darkness, a voice walked to the light. His children are singing, all shouting for joy. Eternity beckons evermore. Do you know his name? Do you know his way? Do you know his fame?
Outstanding. Thank you, Roger, for writing that. Thank you, Kevin, for working on the visuals for it. Thank you, Leah, for the score and producing that, and anyone else who was involved in the YAHOWAH Music Group. Beautiful presentation. We are here because of that name. I was asked by YAHOWAH now 24 years ago, Towrah in 2001, to do something special. And God's name was not known by me at the time. It's kind of like Moshe's. When Moshe was called by God, God knew Moshe's name, but Moshe did not know his. I was in the same position 24 years ago. But one of the first things that we would do together is validate the proper pronunciation of Yahweh's name. And it isn't particularly difficult, and yet it is essential. I can tell you emphatically, Israel, that if you don't start listening, that you're done for. You are 11 months away from the time of Israel's troubles. It is going to be the worst period in the history of humankind, and you are going to be the primary victim. 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die over the next 99 months, and it's going to happen because of your own belligerence. Yes, you will have Marxists and Muslims, and particularly Muslims, that are going to come after you again, and you're going to experience Alaska Flood 2.0 that will be 1,000 times worse than the previous version. But it's going to happen because you haven't a clue as to who your real enemy is, and you think it's Hamas, you think it's Iran, you think it's Hezbollah, and they're simply symptoms of the problem. And you don't have a clue as to who your only reliable ally is. You think it's one of the worst men who have ever lived, Donald Trump. One of the least reliable men, one of the most belligerent and destructive men who have ever lived. And that's who you're banking on. And so long as you do, I'm here to tell you you're going to die. Now, you can block me. I was blocked earlier today by a pro-Israeli account. He is General Quacker. Yes, sir. That's a really bright man. Yeah, General Quacker could not fathom why I would say that Netanyahu is a problem for Israel.
Certainly
that Israel turned a very bad situation in Gaza into a much worse one. And that as a result of their mistakes in Gaza, a Palestinian state is going to be imposed on Israel within the next 12 months and 11 months, actually, and that it is Israel's fault. And that Israel will be indefensible. And that the attack on Iran was foolhardy and that it backfired. That Iran, who was building a nuclear bomb, is now assured to have one, and in short order, because of what Israel did. And Israel had no chance of winning that war. And so you tell Israel the truth, that you're relying on your IDF that failed you completely on 10/7. You're sacrificing your sons and daughters in a war that you cannot win, not the way you're fighting it. You have zero chance of eliminating Islamic Hamas from Islamic Gaza. So long as there is one soul left in Gaza, Hamas will remain in Gaza. And yet you think you can bomb Gaza to the point where there is no Hamas? Are you out of your minds? Are you paying no attention to what's going on? And in the process, you have turned the entire world against you. So much so that the imposition of a Islamic state carved out of the heart of Israel is now imminent and certain. You're relying on a government that is completely corrupt and self-serving. And he's relying on a man who is the least reliable man who has ever been head of a nation. And you don't see it. And we're here telling you that the God of Yisrael has a name. Yisrael has a name. Yehudim have a name. Why don't you know God's name? It's the only name that is repeated 7,000 times in the Hebrew, Torah, prophets, and Psalms. You can read Hebrew, right? How come you don't know Yahweh's name? Who gave you the authorization to erase it? Have you ever read the third statement that Yahweh etched in stone after telling you that he is God? Yahweh, I am Yahweh, your God, who delivered you from religious and political persecution in Mitzrayim, and then writes an entire statement telling you don't be religious, don't do anything that is associated with religion in any possible way, and you're the most religious people on earth, continuing to irritate him. And the third statement, it says that anyone who negates the value of Yahweh's name will never be forgiven. And yet you've erased it. And when we tell you that it is Yahweh and prove that it is Yahweh, you still won't say it. Do you have any idea how angry God is at you?
I think they have some idea.
Evidently not, because I was just blocked by General Quacker.
Ay, ay, ay.
How pathetic can you be? You finally have somebody who is able and willing and has the courage and the compassion to tell you the truth, and you spit on him. I'm in good company. You spit on Yahweh. I mean, do you have any clue as to how nasty you were to God during the Exodus? Are you aware that God got so disgusted by you because of your propensity to complain and to bellyache and to be religious, that he ignited the entire area around your camp 3 days out of Towrah? and just said, you're revolting. What did you do to God when God came off of Mount Choreb with Moshe, giving you 3 days to clean your act up and prepare so, you're looking your best? And he came down to tell you that he is God and that he is the one who has been revealing the Torah to Moshe. And what did you say to him? Because I can tell you, the intelligent thing would be say, thank you. We really appreciate you liberating us from apartheid and from genocide and slavery in Egypt. That was really nice of you to come down and do that for us. We're appreciative. And, keeping us safe from those Egyptians as we were leaving, and having the Egyptians give us all of these gifts so that we could be efficient, and then parting the seas so we could get across. What a nice thing to do. And all this beautiful, clean water. We got to the other side, and you're taking care of, you're feeding us here. What a wonderful thing you're doing. And then giving us this private tour of history. So we know all about creation and the flood, and you've told us all about the relationship that you formed with Abraham, our father, and the terms and conditions of the covenant. Boy, we are really appreciative. How lucky are we, of all people, that the creator God of the universe would do this for us. And thank you for sharing all this with us. That's not what you said. You said, shut up and go away. We never want to hear from you again. That's what you said. Can you imagine being that irascible, that belligerent, that ungrateful? And by the time we get to Devarim 18, Moshe is reminding them, actually it's Yahweh speaking through Moshe, reminding you of just how obnoxious you were. And you have not changed in 3,470 years. You still won't say his name. You still won't listen to him. So that is why we're here. Now you can choose to block us and put your fingers in your ears, just like General Quacker did. I had two Christian women who I think have the IQ of about 50 combined. Say, boy, are you stupid. Nobody can fix stupid.
Why would you want to?
I read downstairs in the Rainbow Studio what Yahowah had to say about his children. It's the most powerful prophecy probably anywhere in the prophets. And yet, not even 1 in a million people are paying attention to it. The prophecy that Solomon gave of the Nachri and Second Chronicles with the dedication on Towrah of the house for Yahweh's name is among the most powerful prophecies ever uttered. Now, to the rabbi's credit, at least they are paying attention. They say, yeah, that's that prophecy, because it's repeated over and over and over again as the Nachri and the Nachar. That's somebody that God is really insistent that he is working with, and he's an observant foreigner. Therefore, he is a threat to us, so we better demean him. I don't even want to talk about the man from Edom because they got no answer whatsoever. Well, what's your excuse? What God says about the Towrah in the 11th chapter of Yeshayah is stunningly profound. What he says about the Nachar in 2 Chronicles 6 is mind-bending, earth-shattering. Why is this same fellow able to write 35 books translating the Torah, prophets, and Psalms and come up with 5,000 insights that no one has ever perceived before, and you don't seem to even care? You'd think that somebody finally shows up to fulfill the prophecy of the Nachri, of the Nachar, of the Towrah. It would be on the nightly news. That'd be all that Israel could talk about. Somebody finally says, I figured out the prophecy of the Adamah Parah, and it's not a red heifer. Bloody red man of the earth who's productive. I can tell you all about him. I can tell you what he accomplishes. I can tell you why that prophecy matters. But all they want to do in Israel is to find a red cow. How could you miss all of this? How could you pretend that you have a relationship with God and not say his name? How can you pretend that you're Torah observant and you turn Passover into a 7-day celebration of liberty and of history, and you don't know that Passover is a 1-day celebration that's part of the 7-day celebration of matzah, and that it has nothing to do with liberty, it has all to do with life, and that matzah is about being freed from religious and political corruption, and it's made obvious in the Torah. How come you don't know that David, fulfilled Pesach in 33 CE when he told you the exact date that he would arrive 700 years in advance, when he told you he would be crucified 700 years before crucifixion was even invented, 1,000 years in advance of enduring it? And yet, you don't credit him for doing it? Why, when God says that he's returning with Dode, who will be as brilliant as the sun in his presence, are you looking for a nameless Messiah? Why did you allow Christians to steal your Messiah, your King, the very Son of God, your salvation, when it was all laid out there for you and all attributed to Dode? Why did you allow them to do that? In fact, why did you aid and abet them in stealing your inheritance? They stole your God. They did everything through identity theft. Why did you allow that to happen? Why was your response to this great counterfeit, this great affront to Yahweh and his beloved son Dode, why was your response to that another false Messiah? Why do you parade around under the star of that false Messiah? Why is your preferred menorah have 9 candles when Yahweh has 7? Why do you call your Talmud Torah? Why don't you celebrate Matzah, which is the day that religious and political guilt is removed so that we can be perfect before God and enter his covenant family on Bakorim? Why don't you acknowledge that Dode is the Son of God when God said so? Why don't you read what Isaiah said about the Choder and then identify him and listen to him? Why don't you listen to what Solomon said about the Nachri and respond accordingly, because he told you to listen to everything he said and then do as he asks? Why don't you correct your calendar to recognize that it's 5992 and that your calendar is 197 years off? You know it's off. Why don't you correct it? Why don't you recognize that in 11 months there will be the Shabuah harvest, and that most of you will miss it? Why don't you acknowledge that we're about to start the time of Jacob's troubles, and that it's going to be 7 years, and at the end of that there will be a Teruah gleaning, and you won't even acknowledge Teruah, you'll call it Rosh Hashanah, Babylonian head of the year? Why don't you acknowledge that Yom Kippur is the return of Yahweh with Dode, that it is a homecoming, a family reunion, a time of reconciliation, and instead you twirl chickens over your head? Why don't you acknowledge that the whole story starts in Eden and it ends in Eden, and that's what Sukkah is all about, is Yahweh is restoring the conditions of earth back to Eden? If you're so damn smart, why don't you refute the contents of those 35 books behind me? Or if you really are that smart, why don't you read them and benefit from them? Why don't you know that your enemy is Islam and that your ally is Yahweh?
Well, sadly, I think I can answer those questions.
Please.
It's very simple. You strip everything else away. It comes down to one thing. We have been lying to ourselves and each other for so long that we think that is the truth.
Yeah, that's the message I got from General Quacker, is that you've lied to yourself so long that when somebody presents the truth, you are so dumbfounded by it that you can't even process it because it doesn't equate to the lie.
It's so unfamiliar.
The lie of G-D, the lie of Hashem,
and Adonai.
the lie of Adonai, the lie of the Talmud, the lie of the rabbis, the lie of Christianity, the lie of Islam, the lie of Judaism. You are so wrapped up in your lies. You're so damn political, so damn religious, and you're unwilling to acknowledge that the Haredim are just pure parasites, and that while they exist, they're a blight on the nation. They're not doing you a service with God. Why don't you acknowledge that that damn rock wall that you bob your head against is a worthless piece of crap? Has nothing to do with God.
Belongs to Herod.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Herod, who was a horrible man in league with the Romans, built that damn wall.
Murdered Jews.
Has nothing to do with Solomon. Had nothing to do with Dode. Has nothing to do with Yahweh. Why do you allow that God-forsaken scar of the Dome of the Rock to remain on top of the Temple Mount, of Yahweh's Mount, of Mount Moriah? Why do you allow that? Why do you allow Al-Aqsa Mosque to stand when the terrorist invasion from Gaza was Al-Aqsa flood? Why didn't you tear it down that next day? Don't you have any courage anymore? Why do you continue to show faith in the IDF when the IDF completely failed you on 10/7? And that since that time, even though there is wonderful courage on the People's Army and wonderful morality on the troops, the leadership of the IDF is horrible. And they continue to make a bad situation worse. They have war goals that could never be achieved in all of time. And what do you think the world's going to do when you finally do have to end that war and withdraw, which is going to be soon, and all there is left is the demolition that you caused? And because you lost the war of public opinion, because you didn't know even how to demonstrate what happened to you, that now the only perception is that Israel is a rogue terrorist state. That is the only perception that's left, because you did such a miserable job of documenting what happened on 10/7. Why? And you haven't done anything right in so long. It's frightening. You know, you're Israel, you are so close to destruction. And so many of you are going to die because of this failure to understand reality of where you are. You remind me of the worst case of America when I was a much younger man, 400 years ago or something there. I had the opportunity to travel around the world. I was one of the first, in fact, I was the first group of 12 people that was allowed into communist China after Nixon opened it up. I was one of the very first Westerners that was able to travel through the Soviet Union, all the way to Siberia and back, during the time that it was the Soviet Union. Traveled all through Eastern Europe, all through Africa, Asia, South Pacific, 175 countries. And one of the things that I learned very quickly is that Americans' views of themselves and the view of the rest of the world of America have nothing in common.
Not one thing.
But I want to tell you this is also true. Israeli views of Israel and the rest of the world's view of Israel have nothing. And that's your fault, just as it was America's fault. It's, the MAGAs today, they are so completely enamored with such a horrible man. And they just are so blinded by their politics that they can't see how disgusting they have become. And that if they continue this way, America is going to be a bankrupt police state. Really very little left of America other than for the vultures to come and pluck away the pieces. There's almost nothing that is true, and that's now the situation that Israel's in. You really haven't a clue. You have been plagued by Islam for 14 centuries. Muhammad, in the first year of the Islamic era, perpetrated genocide on the Jews of Yathrib. There were once 30,000 Jews of Yathrib. When he was done, there were none. Killed all the men, sold all the children into slavery to buy more weapons. All the women were raped to death. And then he, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where Muhammad renounced everything, admitted he wasn't a prophet, it was pretty obvious anyway, he wasn't a messenger, pretty obvious anyway. And he committed that he wouldn't commit another act of terrorism for 10 years. Of course, he reneged on that and committed more acts of terrorism within a week. And on the way back to Yathrib, he decided to go by Kabar. And what he did at Kabar, screaming Allahu Akbar for the first time, was exactly what happened on 10/7. Exactly what happened on 10/7. They're indistinguishable. And yet, not 1 in a million Israelis know it. You don't know what the Quran says. I've written 5 books that tell you every word of the Quran, explaining every one, putting them all in chronological order in the context of Muhammad's life, infusing them with the chronology and the situational awareness of the Hadith, that you know exactly who your enemy is and how to deal with them. And it isn't with bullets and bombs. But getting through to you is, it's impossible. There's a reason that Yahowah gave up on you. There's a reason Moshe gave up on you. Yes, Moshe, he absolutely gave up on you. He said, you're impossible. You cannot be led. You cannot be taught. He wanted nothing to do with you. You were so bad to Moshe that he asked God to kill him rather than endure you another day. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you anymore. That's who you are. If that's who you want to continue to be, then you just block me like General Quacker did. Because to find somebody in social media that is willing to embrace this message in Israel and tell the truth, I don't think there's anybody in Israel that's got the intelligence or the courage to do so. And that's the reason why you're in the fix that you're in. So, gentlemen, I have talked over you, but I come with a heavy heart. I realize that we have been asked to do something that Yahowah has gone way out of his way to enable, way beyond anything that has ever happened previously with his 7 spirits, including the very spirit of Yahowah. And he even goes and uses Nuach to tell us that this spirit of Yahowah is actually going to reside within me and remain within me like it was his home. Just like, his spirit was once in the home that Solomon dedicated there on the Temple Mount. And now he is saying, no, it's my choder. That's my home. And yet it's almost impossible to capture the attention of Israelites or Goyim for that matter. So I know what we're going to do. We're going to do what we always do. We're going to continue to share Yahweh's name. We're going to continue to convey the terms and conditions of the covenant and explain the purpose of each of the Moed Mikra and tell you exactly where you are on this timeline, and reintroduce not only Yahweh's name to you, but the most important person who ever lived. That's Dowd, your king, your savior, the very Son of God, the Messiah, and the one who is returning. We're going to continue to do what we have done now for 24 years. But I'm here to tell you there is a difference. And my guess is that you can sense what that difference is. I'm going to do the job that Yahweh asked us to do. But it's because I love Yahweh and Dowd. And that's my motivation, is Yahweh and Dowd. Because the more you're exposed to most Yehudim, they aren't worthy of Yahweh and Dowd. You've been obnoxious to Yahweh and Dowd. You've pointed your finger in their face. You've spit in their face. You've been worse than Miriam was, and she was called contentious and embittered and rebellious, and God covered her in leprosy and said, "You are contagious, don't go anywhere near her," and then announced that she is the exemplar of divorce. And she only said that she wanted to speak for God. She actually didn't write a Talmud, but you have. She didn't change Yahweh's name or erase it, but you have.
Ooh.
She didn't set up a political party or an IDF to replace Yahweh, but you have.
May I,
All right, gentlemen,
yeah, may I say a little something?
you sure may.
Okay, I this is kind of freaking me out because last night I was studying something, and then this morning I started looking through things about Yahweh's name, and I don't know why. It was just interesting to do. But you know, the thing I've done that's been the most rewarding since I've met you is I read your material, and I think I'm logical enough and knew enough about the Torah to the degree that I could figure out, yeah, that sounds like it's right. I'm not sure that's right, and so forth. And prophecy, I was a big fan of. But I would go and I finally got all these books that you recommended and started studying it and looking up everything and verifying. And the thing about the name that just keeps going on. This morning, in particular, I looked up the name, and of course, you know, this is the theological workbook of the Old Testament, and it verifies everything. I have it. I don't have it on, on the computer, but I like.
Okay, I know the reason I'm smiling is because you are the. I'm an analog guy stuck in a digital world, but I at least make an attempt. I at least make an attempt. So I have my theological word book on my computer, and it's keyed to an interlinear, so I can go to it really quickly. I do have it in 5 volumes though on my bookshelf here, but it's only my absolute analog pal that would have it and hold it up as that big book. We are going to be twins forever, pal. I would be you if I could. I would still be on my second book if I was looking up everything.
That's what he could never ask me to do anything because I never make a deadline. This is the only job I miss every deadline. But
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just had to.
All right. The only thing that was so interesting about this one as I reread it was that it covered in detail just about everything you always say about this is where the name came from, this is what the letters mean, da-da-da-da-da. This is what Yahowah and is his personal name of God. They say that in Strong's 7,000 times. This is his personal name, and then they change it. Yahowah, and they say they can't pronounce it, and he says, well, you can based on, he presents it as Haya, so, and on and on and on. So everything you normally say is right here, but then I found 2 things really cool. Insidious Hebrew, the Hebrew Chaldean lexicon.
Mhm.
It's the favorite. He came up with. I'll narrow it down to two things that were really, really interesting. First of all, he says he has an ongoing little argument in here for 2 or 3 pages. And he says that if YAHOWAH does not stand for its own vowels, but those they're of another word, then the inquiry arises: what are the true nature, or what are the genuine vowels? You can't have YAHOWAH be vowels everywhere, and now all of a sudden in his name you can't use them as vowels.
That's
It's
correct.
just it's stupid. I mean, it's beyond.
That is correct.
And
Yes, that is correct.
he leaves that as an
Griff?
open question. It doesn't make any sense.
That's correct.
and
And
then-
Because it's a
there
grift.
are clearly, and not only are there clearly 5 vowels among the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph is a vowel. The Hey is a vowel. The Wa is a vowel. The Yod is a vowel, and the Ain is a vowel. Those are the 5 vowels, and you can't have a language without consonants and vowels. A vowel is an open mouth sound, and a consonant is a closed mouth sound. And every language has vowels and consonants because you cannot pronounce a word that is all consonants. You can pronounce a word that is all vowels. It just doesn't give you a whole lot of distinction in your language if you don't have consonants. And so when you study the Hebrew languages we have, particularly with fresh eyes, the first thing that you learn is the diacritical markings are meaningless. That the Yod is always pronounced just like the English Y. We got the pronunciation of the Y from the Hebrew Yod.
Sure.
And that the Aleph is pronounced as an A sound, and the Wa conveys 2 sounds, and that it's like the W in English. In English, a W is a vowel consonant. And if you look at the words in English, there are several hundred of them that have OW in them. Owl is an example. Yes, toe. Yes. And words that have a W in them almost always have the O sound. And so it is a vowel just like it is in Hebrew. Sure. And then you recognize there are 5 vowels. The diacritical markings are meaningless. They weren't even invented until the 11th century, which is 2,600 years after, 26 centuries after the Torah was inscribed and pronounced. They were in different places. It was Moshe speaking the Torah and then writing the Torah, which means that the written language that he was writing of the Torah reflected the spoken language, which means it had vowels and consonants, and that it could be pronounced exactly as it was written. And you recognize with all of this that God, when he came to Moshe and he explained his name to Moshe, he didn't just say, "My name is Yahweh," did he?
No.
He began by telling you, there is a verb that serves as the basis of my name. Does God very often introduce a new word by giving a verbal root first?
Sure.
Like, for example, Torah. He told us that the verbal root of Torah was Yara, which means source of teaching, guidance, direction, and instructions. So God is very often introduces a name with a verb. And in the case of Moshe, Yahweh introduced his name with the verb Haya. And Haya means to exist. Pretty good definition of his name. Is there any explanation of how to pronounce Yahweh's name in that verb, Haya?
Well, it's got 3 of them.
It's got 3 of the 4 letters in Yahweh's name is there, right? So it's clearly that
you only got to get right on one more.
You're certain now on the Yah beginning, and you're certain on the Ah ending. So all you need is one more. So
Yeah.
when we read in Shemoth names called Exodus, the introduction where Yahweh introduces his name to Moshe, telling us it's based on the verb Haya, and he actually says that Yahweh is my only name and the only name I want to be known by for all time in every generation, which you'd think that Yahweh would know what he intends with his name. So, if that's not what he intended, you don't think he would say that. But what is the name of the book that provides instruction and guidance on the proper pronunciation of his name?
Torah.
Torah. Yeah.
Torah.
Bingo.
Okay. And Torah has that same ah in it, hey in it, does the same ending. So we know that Yahweh's name can't be Yahweh, can it?
No.
Okay.
It's got to end in an ah. And and it's got to start with a Yah. So the O sound in Torah, you think that Jews are pronouncing Torah correctly?
Yeah.
No.
They don't call it the Tova.
Say shalom.
Yeah.
And
So,
Tov.
well, shalom is the same thing, a different word, but shalom, which means reconciliation and peace and those sorts of
Use it
things.
all day long.
It also has an O sound in it. Where's the O sound come from in both shalom and Torah?
The
one.
Well,
Everybody knows.
so, and how many names are there? Like we know of
Tob, there's
we know
hundreds.
of Yoel.
Yeah.
Yoel is a compound of Yahweh and El. So, how would you pronounce Yahweh if it's Yoel?
Yahweh.
So, every place that you go, we're told that the Wah is pronounced as an O sound, and the Hey is pronounced as an Ah, and the Y is pronounced like you would pronounce it in Yisrael or in Yashayah
Yes.
or in Haya. And so it was, listen, I came into this with no scholastic training. I had the benefit, didn't know it at the time, of the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And when you have the very spirit of Yahweh, you would think that he would know his own name. So we could start there. And then he said, I'm going to give you the spirit of intelligence, chakma. And then I'm going to give you the spirit of bien, understanding, as well as diat, knowledge. So you can put all this stuff together and then have the courage to actually tell people the truth, which is the scariest part of all. And do you know how long I took before I was willing to say, not only is it Yahweh's name, but I can prove it. It took 2 weeks where all I did is I examined every single word in the Hebrew lexicon, every single one that had a yod, a hey, or a wah in it. And I wrote them all down as to how the yod, the hey, and the wah were pronounced. Every single one of them. And I said, so here's your proof. And then I'm going to highlight this with, I'm going to take the words that are the best known, most commonly pronounced words in the Hebrew lexicon, and I'm going to show you that those words tell us that it's Yahweh. And so what you read is somebody says, since they are they're all vowels, and we can pronounce those vowels in every one of the other 8,000 words in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, wouldn't it be stupid to say we just can't pronounce them in this one name when we can pronounce it in every other name and every other word?
Yeah.
How stupid do you have to be to take that approach? But this is what Leah said. They've lied to each other so much
It's so long.
that they can't process it. They're all general quacker.
If I may, and I feel a real on the hot seat, always having to answer for my people.
Yes.
However, what in the hell do you think the chances are that they don't know how to say Yahweh's name? I'm going to argue that they do. They most absolutely do. This is all a grift, a ruse, a smear, a whitewash, call it whatever you prefer. But they know how to say Yahweh's name. They refuse. That's the problem.
And then
Just fight.
let's say you're right. Let's say you're right. And I'm not arguing with you here, but let's assume that they know, and they're just being belligerent. So they're back to the Exodus, where they know that that's Yahweh, and they're
Ding,
telling
ding,
them to go,
ding.
shut up and go away. We don't ever want to see you or hear from you again.
Yep.
So let's say that the problem really is Jews are obnoxious.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you
So-
been in a room with them?
Yeah. It's called
Yes.
X.
Yeah.
I do it every day. You meet the likes of General Quacker. Yeah, I know what it's all. I know
awful.
know it. It's awful. They're obnoxious. Yes, and they're belligerent. Now, that being the case, what do you do then when you get to the third statement that Yahweh etched in stone, which he said the negation of his name is an unforgivable sin? Now, what do you do?
To be scared to
What's the
death.
answer to that? What is the answer to that when he says that the negation of his name is so vile that
So you
it's
won't forgive
unforgivable?
you.
I know
The
answer.
rabbis say, well, it's our reverence for it. That's what that means. It's our reverence for it.
Okay, let's pretend that they that excuse is holds water. Does their reverence for Yahweh's name, where it is erased from his testimony and negated to the point that it no longer exists as part of their lives, part of their vocabulary, or even part of his own testimony, is that still not, no matter what your motivation is that still not a direct violation of
Yes.
the third statement that was etched in stone, which is the only unforgivable sin that exists from God?
Undeniably,
Absolutely.
that is
Oh,
a violation.
Exactly.
So that's why that song and others like it, Yahweh's name, is so important, is that while you are negating Yahweh's name by not saying it, by not acknowledging it, by not writing it, by erasing it from your lives, then you cannot be forgiven.
I'll
It's
go
There
worse
is no
than hating it.
salvation for you.
It's
I'll go
worse
even
than hating
further.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll go even further. Not only do they say it is ineffable, but they also say to the people, if somebody like me were to say, I know God's name, they would put their hand over my mouth. They stifle the people, they prevent them from doing it, and they tell them it's wrong. There's your problem.
Yes.
It's a huge problem.
And here's the issue, is that we know it. We proclaim it. I've got 35 books that are entitled Yada Yahowah, to know Yahweh. We've done now 400 or 500 hours of the Yahowah blog under Yahweh's name. I have, 18,000 posts on X, and at least a third that number on
sleep, and
Facebook.
breathe Yada Yahowah. That's it.
Yes, and we have done all of that, and yet I'm not aware that there is a single Israeli in Israel that is writing, saying, acknowledging, promoting Yahweh's name. And until that happens, there is no hope for Israel. There's no reconciliation for Israel. There's no Shabbat harvest. There's no Towrah gleaning. There's no benefit of the red heifer. There's no ride on the white chariot. There's no homecoming with Yahweh and Dod. While that
Is there a
exists,
penalty?
you are excluded.
Is there a penalty for that in Israel more than just public, like, oh, we don't do that? I mean, is there like a legal penalty, or is there?
Well, for the
Yes.
the rabbis during the beginning in the 1st century made saying Yahweh's name a capital offense.
Yes.
Now, they didn't have the wherewithal to kill anyone because the Romans controlled Judea, but to say Yahweh's name was considered such an affront to the religion of Judaism that the consequence was capital punishment, death.
It kind of still is, and I'll tell you why. If I were to say this in a room full of religious Jews, I would be exiled. And that is like a social death.
Mhm.
And
Well,
that
it's-
is what they do. They terrorize you by keeping you away from your family, away from the community. They exonerate you. They
Like the Amish.
erase you. They literally have a funeral for you while you're alive.
Wow.
That's how disgusting
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah, Jews are so obnoxious.
Yep.
And any religious Jew will fall into this. 100% of religious Jews, 100% of political Jews, and now virtually 100% of Israelis will fall into this trap, where saying Yahweh's name, acknowledging Yahweh's name, embracing Yahweh's name, is for them worse than
It's a shame.
pulling out all of their fingernails and toenails and torturing them for years. They would prefer to endure torture and death than embrace Yahweh's name. That is how obnoxious.
Well, that is how
Spiteful.
psychologically abused religion has been to them. That we actually fear it. Yes.
The greatest threat to Israel is Judaism.
Yeah,
The greatest enemies of Jews are rabbis. And since there is no chance that rabbis are going to change, they are not going to be among those shub for shub or no shub for you. They're going to be the no shub for you. They're not going to change. They're obnoxious. They're belligerent. They are the worst of the Jews of the Exodus. And so they're never going to listen. They're never going to change. They're never going to learn. They're going to continue to advance their own personal enrichment and aggrandizement in opposition not only to Yahweh, not only to King David, but also in opposition to the souls of all of those they beguile. And that is for certain. And so the 25 to 30% of Jews who are influenced by these buffoons, these reprobates, these malcontent religious pretenders, they're not salvageable. Not now, not ever. There is no reason to have a debate with them. There's no reason to try to encourage them. They cannot be reached, not with any level of evidence and reason, including the testimony of Yahweh himself.
And if I may, they are not your sages. They are not wise. They are not learned, and they are not truthful.
That's correct. They aren't. I mean, in the past 23 years, I have come to understand the Torah, prophets, and Psalms better than all of them combined who have ever lived. That's just a simple statement of fact. They are pretenders, but they're pretending something that God is disgusted by. When God said to Miriam, and all Miriam did is claim without authorization that we too speak for God. God was so disgusted by her. He said, even if your father spit in your face, that's a pretty disgusting line.
Oh,
even if your father spit in your face, I have no compassion for you. I'm covering you with leprosy because I want the community to know they can't get anywhere near you or they're going to shrivel up and die. They're going to lose appendages.
Wow.
They're going to be a pariah, that their clothes, their house, anything near them is infected. And then I'm going to end my last statement about Miriam, a name that means embittered rebellion, by saying that she epitomizes divorce. And yet they're going to write the Talmud and claim that is the Torah and that they speak for God, going infinitely beyond where Miriam went, and Miriam was sanctioned. There's a reason that religious Jews are in love with Miriam. They think that God was absolutely wrong and challenging her and rebuking her, and they are totally committed to restoring Miriam as the great heroine of the people and demeaning God for the way he responded, because they are far worse than Miriam. They are Miriam.
Yeah, they'll replace
Yeah.
Yahweh with the IDF too. They don't care. Yeah.
And then you have the other side, and is at least 25, 30%, maybe 35% of Jews worldwide are extreme liberals, Marxists, socialists, and
Left heart.
that is the political philosophy that has a religious bent to it, and is completely out of touch with reality. There is no correlation between history and reality and economic prudence between Marxism and the people that hold this philosophy. And you have a disproportionate number of Jews who are self-loathing Jews who are Marxists. And between them and the parasitical Haredim and ultra-Orthodox Jews of a variety of different flavors, there's a very small percentage of Jews that can be saved. You know, it's interesting that Yahowah specifically gives us the percentage, not the percentage that are able to benefit from the two harvests, although he hints at those numbers, nor the number that are going to be there in Jerusalem for the sacrifice of the red heifer, although gives us a kind of a good feel for what that's going to be all about. But he tells us the percentage of Jews that are going to die over the next 99 months. And you recognize there's 1/3 of Jews that are too political, either ridiculously liberal or ridiculously right-wing. And there's 1/3 of Jews that are way too religious to reach. So what percentage of the Jews are not even going to make it to the end?
2/3 will be gone.
Yeah, 66%.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good assessment of exactly what's going on. So we've only got that 1/3, and getting through to that 1/3 is tough because they're so badly indoctrinated and misled in a culture that believes that they have won in Gaza. They can't wait to show you the demolition, that boom, 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 we blew this up and blew that up, and we're not committing genocide. It's as if they haven't even read the current political judicial definition of genocide. If you read the international courts, the United Nations, the official definition of genocide, absolutely they've committed genocide. There's no question about it. Have they committed genocide from the way that the term was conceived, talking about the Holocaust? Hell no, not even 1%. But they made a bad situation worse, and they continue to celebrate it as if somehow that continuing that same course that has led to no favorable result and the whole world turning against them, if they continue to do the same thing, they'll get a different result. I don't think that's sane.
That's the one thing we've been consistent on, is how to make a bad thing worse. We have serious consistency in that department.
Yeah. And listen, you can't say that Goyim are better. You know, that was the whole idea of the Christian New Testament, that Jews killed their man god, and because Jews killed their man god, they crucified him. God turned on them and he gave all the promises. He changed teams and he gave all the promises to the Gentiles. No. First of all, Jesus never existed, so you can't blame the Jews for killing him, because you can't kill a myth. Obviously, you can't kill a myth because Christianity is still the most popular religion in the world and it's based upon a myth. And second of all, Dode, who was actually the person who did this, was here to fulfill Passover. The Passover lamb, last time I checked, really does have to die. And so if the Jews were the ones who were responsible for the Passover lamb dying, then they provided a worthy service. They weren't, but had they done so, you ought to be applauding them. And if they were able to kill God, which would be pretty stupid of God being a man and God being killable, well, you ought to be worshiping them as opposed to the man they killed. But nonetheless, the Christian New Testament exists to demonize Jews, and the Christian New Testament is a wholesale frontal attack on the Torah and prophets. It negates them and repudiates everything that God said. Every citation in the Christian New Testament is misappropriated from the Torah and prophets and then misrepresented.
That's as big as a farce as not being able to say the name.
Yeah. So the Goyim are not better just because we're telling you the truth that God is disgusted by Yehudim and by Israelites. I mean, absolutely disgusted. So disgusted, he's told you after the divorce in Hosea that I'm sitting this one out. I'm going to heaven. I'm paying no attention to you. When you decide to change, I'll return, but not before. And the reason that there's 1,000 prophecies on the role that we're playing for God to reintroduce Yahweh to his people and to coordinate these two harvests, Shabbat and Towrah, and to reacquaint the world with who Dode really is and to obfuscate the myth of Jesus Christ so that you might know who the real Savior, Son of God, and Messiah is because God is sitting this one out with one exception. He's in heaven, but his Ruach's right here. And his Ruach is going to be persistent and getting the attention of enough Yehudim and Israelites and Goyim, you're welcome, to have a delightful homecoming. Now, that might mean that many of you are going to have your backs up against the wall where you got nothing else going for you. Some are just going to be like you fellas were the first time you heard me speak about Yahweh. You said, "Oh my goodness!"
Right.
I've never heard anyone speak like that before. Mm-hmm. Either he is the craziest loon in the history of loons, or this is the one guy that's figured it out.
Right.
Yeah, and because it is so profound, I need to figure out, is he telling me the truth? Because, oh, by the way, everything he is saying makes sense to me. It is exactly as I suspected it was going to be. How in the hell did he figure it out? And I want to learn about it. Is that pretty close for both of you?
100%.
You're Rich.
Yeah, I mean, God hates religion, gets your attention if you're paying attention to begin with.
Yes.
And that the second I heard you say that, I don't know, I've been triggered ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, that is exactly as it ought to be, is that you hear something that is profoundly different that wakes you up and you say, either this is true, and I sense it's true because it resonates with exactly how I would expect God to be. And you then go and you do your due diligence and you read those books that are all written where the translations give you the word. They serve it up to in a silver platter. They say, here's the word, like this one. Do not be distressed or concerned. And it has al yare, with al being a form of negation and yare being the word for respect, being distressed, concerned, or to even be afraid. Do not be afraid. Don't be distressed. Don't be concerned. Then it says animals of the open environment. Well, that's Behema Sadeh. And you can then look it up in the case of Kirk, and you can get your book or the others of us who are somewhat literate now and computer.
I have a mouth too.
Can do it. Oh, you got one. Oh, hey.
I got lexicons and stuff on the computer.
And you can highlight it, and then you can do a copy C and a copy V into any search engine like Google, and it will tell you whether or not that word means that. It's pretty simple to verify. But it's not as satisfying, I agree, as taking that paper and that book and finding it alphabetically and looking it up and saying, yep, there it is. I found it. But somebody gives you an amplified translation that is corrected from the Dead Sea Scrolls, that is scrubbed of the Masoretic copy edit that takes all the religion out of it and conveys God's testimony with his name in a manner that is consistent with his nature, and then gives you all the tools to check. And then if any word is unique, it writes a paragraph and explains, well, here's the history of this word, and this is the context it's used. This is how it's introduced, and this is why I'm rendering it this way. And you read that and you say, wait a minute, every claim he just made about God is verified by God.
You want to know what claim you made about God that got me?
What's that?
That God doesn't love everyone.
No, that fit
And
you
that
perfectly.
hate-
You're an introvert.
And that hate is
Well, that was another one.
because Judaism and our Jewish mothers teach us the exact opposite.
Yeah, you can't love until you learn to hate.
That's right.
You have to know when, how, and what to hate.
That's right.
And that's one of the problems in Israel right now. They don't know that they need to be hating Islam, that Islam is
Or the rabbis.
genocidal towards them, or the rabbis.
Or
And-
genocidal.
And they
towards
don't know that the best way to hate is how Yahweh hates, which is to express his disdain for things using words, using evidence and reason to point out that something is really wrong.
Yes, Israel, when will you condemn them for all the souls they took and made merchandise of you? When will you get it?
Yeah, condemn the rabbis, condemn Christians, condemn Muslims.
Begin with them.
I've written 13 volumes that expose and condemn those three religions. And I didn't kill anybody, didn't beat anybody up.
Yep.
I simply used words, evidence, and reason, and completely destroyed them, killed them, all three religions. And that is the service that God wants us to capitalize upon. I mean, when we started, the single biggest priority to God was to save his people from the abuse of Islam, because Islam was the deadliest religion, the most destructive religion in human existence. And Allah's goal was to annihilate humankind, beginning with Jews. The Quran exists to obliterate humankind. That's Allah is Satan. He wants to completely annihilate all life on the planet, which is why the edict in the 8th surah and all of the surahs revealed in Yathrib during when they were perpetrating genocide against the Jews are that all Muslims must die killing for Allah. Now, if all Muslims die killing for Allah, how many people are going to be left?
None.
None. That's the goal. So Yahweh began saying, I want you to expose and condemn Islam. I want you to use your words to repudiate the Quran and the Hadith and Allah and Muhammad and the first Muslims. And we were, now there's 5 volumes doing that very thing. Here's just one volume. They're all long. They're 825 pages a piece, folks. This is volume 5 of Goddamn Religion. Every word of the Quran, from beginning to end, every word of the Quran is organized in this book in chronological order, set in the context of Muhammad's life and explained using the Islamic Hadith. And then there are 5 books on Twistianity. And these 5 books on Twistianity go through and systematically demonstrate that what is written in the Christian New Testament is not only not inspired by God, but that it was inspired by Satan himself, and that Paul created the myth of Jesus Christ, that he never existed. And I prove it. There's 5 volumes of it. And then there's 35 books all total. This one happens to be the one whose program we were going to do tonight, and we'll still get into it, which is Qatsyr Harvest, about what Yahweh has to say about the opportunity to save your soul so that you're not part of this time of Yaakov's troubles. And then you have, this is volume 1 of an introduction to God. And in a book like this, as you know, Kirk, you will be introduced to the proper pronunciation of Yahweh's name, where it's proven. And every example is given. And then you'll see in a book like this, an explanation of the oldest sources of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and an analysis of the Dead Sea Scrolls is provided in here. A review of the Hebrew language, so that you know the stems and the the moods, as well as the every aspect of the language. So you know the difference between the perfect and the imperfect conjunction. You're going to know the language. And then once you know the sources that will be translating, you know the grammar, you know, well, a little insight, for example, that you'll find in that book. There is no past, present, or future tense in Hebrew.
Right.
That everything Yahweh says is true for all time. The only things that are time limited is in the perfect conjugation. It is a completed act at a period either in our past, present, or future. But otherwise,
and only a timeless being thinks
Perfect and
that way.
imperfect, right?
yeah. So that's and that Hebrew has a mood for expressing volition in first, second, and third person, because freedom of choice is so important to God. And then Hebrew has some 20 different stems, and each of these stems establish a relationship, because that's what God's interested in, between the subject and the object of the verb. And who else explains that to you?
Mhm.
And then goes through and says, here are the oldest manuscripts. Here's how many volumes we found, and here's how they were found, how we came to know them. And then after doing all of that, writes, why you? Why me? Why are we here together? What does God have to say about our relationship? And as I said, we were downstairs this early afternoon, and we're going through Appalling Twistianity, and we were back to Yeshaya 11. That prophecy, it just grabs you right here and here, and you're just, how can God have been this clear on this unique individual at this time and this mission and the purpose of it, which is to bear fruit, to be productive for these harvests, and no one seemed to care? So anything else you found when you were doing your study on Yahweh's name there, Kirk, other than it is acknowledged that Yahweh's name was written with 4 vowels, and that those vowels are easily pronounceable?
Well, some of the arguments were, there was one other argument that seemed pervasive, well, not pervasive, but certainly note that God, they try to claim that somehow this name is okay to change because it came out of Egypt. But there's no, number one, there's no record of anything coming out of it. You couldn't find YAHOWAH written anywhere in Egypt. There's no relic for it, so forth.
No.
It's just kind of, it's like the Shoah system or Shiva system. When they change everything, then they just do it, and they just claim that it's okay to do it. Just like,
So, correction there is one Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh inscription. It was done by slaves in a turquoise mine. It was found 5 years ago, but that's it.
really, I hadn't known that.
And Mitzrayim in Egypt?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In a turquoise mine.
And who were the slaves digging? They would have put it there.
Yeah, it was the slaves. Yeah.
Yeah, there are engravings and
They didn't get it from that.
that speak of the presence of the Hebrew slaves, and speak of even Abraham coming in and out, and of Joseph, and the time of the Hebrew slaves there. So there is a lot of record in this regard, but the losers don't very often write history, and so Pharaoh Thutmose didn't go and etch in a stone wall, "I got bested by Yahweh."
No.
And by the way, and Yahweh killed my firstborn son. They don't typically do that sort of thing, but we do have,
especially not the Egyptians. No.
Yeah, we do have a silver tablet that was found dating to the Exodus period. And it has Yah's name in it, Yahweh, in it, and so it was known then. The Mishnah stele dates to what about 800 or so, 900 BCE, and it mentions Yahweh's name and Dod's name and Yisrael and the like. So the evidence.
The Babylonians knew Yahweh's names. The Assyrians knew it. The Arutu, Ugartians, they knew it.
Mhm.
All of the Levant knew Yahweh's name. They did at one time.
Yeah, I think Yahweh's name went out of favor for two reasons. One is in Babylon during the captivity period, the Yahudim, which is Jews, Yahud is a compound of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. Yahud, Dod, and Yahweh means Yahweh's beloved. And so the Babylonians called them Yahus. So that term that the original search engine of Andy Yang's search engine Yahoo, it was a derogatory term, and they decided that they didn't like that anymore, as opposed to saying, yeah, we're Yahs. That is true, and that's why we're getting out of here, and why we'll end up being the only nation that prevails. Long after you're gone, we'll still be here.
Yes, but we traded that derogatory term for another one.
That is correct.
Jew.
That is correct. Yeah, there's no basis for Jew.
No,
there's not. The J didn't even exist until the 17th century. Yeah, so there's no basis for it whatsoever. I think the second reason that Yahweh's name went out of favor is that it's very difficult to create a religion when you're on a first name basis with God, and everybody knows that it's Yahweh. How does a rabbi intervene and say, no, I'm the one in charge, if everybody knows Yahweh's name? Yeah. So I think that Yahweh's name was bad for business.
If you have a personal relationship with someone, you don't need an introduction now, do you?
No, but they all need an introduction now because they don't have a relationship with him.
None.
That is therein is the problem. So that is why we're here. I guess the good news for us is that if Israel were paying attention, then we wouldn't be needed.
Right.
Well, we could join in the songs and go play golf.
We could. We could benefit from all of
this.
Go
yachting.
Yeah, we could go out. Yachting.
Walk
and
the dog.
Walk the dog. Scuba diving. We
have a real retirement. That'd be so nice.
Have a real retirement. As opposed
you guys
to,
got some great hobbies. I'd just be cutting wood.
You would, huh? Just don't do it on the Shabbat.
Unless you don't want to eat.
If you're going to cut it on the Shabbat, don't pick it up.
Right.
And you can only take 3 steps.
Yeah. Yahweh is a pleasure to be around. He is a delight to work with. He is tremendously brilliant, exceedingly kind, uplifting. The more you do for him, the more he does for you. He shares credit better than anyone I have ever met. He's creator God of the universe. He's the only reason that we prevail, and yet he's giving us the credit for what we're doing. It's an amazing situation to be associated with him, and I just would encourage everyone that has the opportunity, come to know him. And I would suggest that you all do what Rich has done, what Kevin, you have done, which Kirk, you have done, and Leah. When we first met, 18 years ago, I guess we met about the same time that Kirk and I met, although both remotely online and the like, and began corresponding. Check it out. Go bring down the first book and say, all right, I'm going to start and I'm going to read a book like this. They're free online. You don't have to go to Amazon and buy the paperback. The paperbacks are royalty free, but you can go online. They're at yadayah.com in their entirety. Do it. All 4 of, and including myself, all 5 of us have done. Look up the words.
I think before that happens, that something crucial must occur, particularly with Yahud, because we have lied to ourselves and each other for so long that we have such cognitive dissonance towards the truth that the actual first thing we must get over is our perspective that we know more than we think that we do, because we don't.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, we can work with a lot. If you don't know, that's fine. But we can't, there's something you can't work with, and that's a bad attitude. Change that. Change your perspective, because God is not with you. Yahweh is not with you. He does not know you. You do not know him. Therefore, you need an introduction. That man is the one to do it for you.
Yeah.
However, you need to change your attitude.
Yeah.
Because a bad attitude is something that no one can work with.
Why do you think Yahweh burnt every area surrounding the camp prior to the discussion in Numbers 11?
I know the answer.
Because he didn't want to kill them. but
Because
he
we
wanted
had
to
a
kill them.
really crappy attitude.
That is correct.
That's why.
He used a descriptive term that said you're obnoxious, you're irascible, you're intolerable, you're ungrateful, you're unappreciative. I want nothing to do with you. I think you're disgusting. And that's a crappy attitude.
Yeah, I think the English word
and
for it is insolent.
Yeah, and you've had a crappy attitude for 3,450 years. Okay, so it's imprinted. So
honestly, the first thing you need to do, get over yourself.
get over yourself. That's true. That's why I've been mocking General Quacker. Is you got to get over yourself. If you can't take correction, you're just going to die. I mean, that's just you got 99 months, and sometime in that 99 months, if you're going to remain political, remain religious, remain obnoxious towards God, you're unwilling to accept his name, say his name, embrace his name, celebrate his name, or acknowledge that God has a son, a firstborn, a Messiah, returning and former king, and his name is David, and he is the chosen one. If you're not willing to do those two things, you're going to die. That's just all there is to it. You are not going to survive the next 99 months. Israel is in a horrible position. And Israel thinks, oh boy, we won that war against Iran. Look at us, man. We had total air superiority. Well, we killed 10 times more of them than they killed of us. Boy, we are really good at this. Oh, you came within a hair's breadth of being annihilated. And Gaza, by destroying Gaza and not dealing with Islam, you've positioned yourself where now the Islamic State carved out of your heart, just as Isaiah said, is inevitable. And it's imminent. And you're not smart enough at this point. You think you're really smart. And yet you can't figure out the simple stuff. Like the enemy is Islam and the ally is Yahweh. You can't figure out the simple stuff.
More so, they don't even know what is coming. What is coming is absolute horror. Worse than anything that has gone before.
And I'm going to tell you that star, which has nothing to do with Dode and has everything to do with Bar Kokhba, the false Messiah, and the religion of Judaism, and being Stockholmed because you were forced to wear it by the European Germans and the Nazis, that star is not going to do you any good. 9 candle menorah is not going to do you any good. Hashem is not going to do you any good. Your prayers are not going to do you any good. Your rabbis are not going to do you any good. Your politicians are not going to do you any good. And the IDF doesn't know how to fight this foe.
And how many times do you need to be humbled before you say, I'm wrong?
Well, Yahweh deals with that. What he has said is that it's only because of the onslaught that is coming of Jews becoming susceptible to Alaska flood. He calls it the flood of terrorists that are too numerous to count, in the millions, that are going to flood into Israel. and that the IDF will be again rendered incompetent, helpless, useless, and the politicians will be again shown to be incompetent, useless,
Toothless.
and the rabbis will be a quivering bunch of just obnoxious idiots, and the progressives will be eating their words as they wanted to offer this two-state solution, such that now the Islamic terrorists aren't just coming from one direction; they're coming from the inside out.
Yeah, who'll protect you then?
They're eviscerating you. And then when all of this occurs, the entire world is against you. You have no allies, and Muslims are infiltrating Israel by the millions. With your back up against the wall, there are a number of you, thousands of you, hopefully tens of thousands of you, that are ultimately going to accept Yahweh. You're going to say his name again. You're going to accept him by default. And that bothers me, I think, more than anything else. That's the thing that's got me in my craw, is that God is so wonderful. Yahweh is so kind and generous and compassionate to us. He has offered his people so very much, and they're only going to accept him because he's their last alternative. Doesn't that just gnaw at you?
Well, I'll tell you why it doesn't bother me so much.
Okay.
Going forward in the millennial kingdom, I think he does say that anyone who tries to speak for God, they're dealt with very swiftly. So
Yeah, it's instant death.
yes.
Unless you're authorized. That's
That's
why
right.
God makes such a big deal of it. If you're authorized by God, he tells you so that there's absolutely no question that you're authorized by God. And in this case where I'm speaking to you as authorized by God, it's because there's 1,000 points of light that say you're the guy, and there's no one else in human history that fulfills this role. So I am certain of it, and I've shared with you the proof of it, and you can deal with that, and you need it because you don't know Yahweh's name, because you don't know your Messiah and Son of God, and you're still unwilling to completely disregard this myth of Jesus Christ and the Star of Bar Kokhba, that the rabbis are godly. You are unwilling to do this. You still go up to this stupid King Herod's wall, and you pretend that you're communicating to God there. No, you're antagonizing God there.
Yep.
And every day that you leave the Dome of the Rock and an Alaska mosque on top of the Temple Mount, you're showing God that you have no courage.
Don't worry.
God likes courage, and you got none.
We'll take care of that for you.
Well, if you don't destroy it, I will. You set just show you how lost you are. The rabbis will set a place setting for Elia at Passover and can send someone to the door to welcome him in. And yet the thing that Elia is best known for is opposing Israel's religious and political establishment. In fact, killing everyone who was religious and political. And you can't put that together?
Wow.
Now, what happened to those who fashioned the golden calf?
Killed them.
The ground swallowed them up.
Yeah. What happened to the prophets of Baal? And how many rabbis call themselves Baal? What happened to the prophets of Baal?
All dead.
Lord Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard to figure out. Heck, I did it.
Just got to have the right attitude, folks.
You do. My friend Kirk always says, if you're going to make progress with Yahweh, you got to have the want to. And if you don't have the want to, it ain't going to happen. And so what Yahweh is looking for, he's looking for a few good men and women who have the want to.
Absolutely.
And you know what want to is? It's a positive attitude.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's all about having a positive attitude. God can work with everything except a negative attitude. And if your attitude stays in the gutter, if you stay obnoxious to God, then there's no hope for you. You're going to be part of the carnage over the next 99 months. And how do we know this timing? Because Dode told us as Gabriel exactly when he was going to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. And you can do the math. And You know that the decree, the 20th year of that decree was 444 BCE, and you can do the math from that time, the numbers that he gave you, and you'll come right to Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim in 33 CE, which is year 4000 Yah, which happens to be exactly 40 Yobel, 2000 years from 1968 BCE, when Abraham and Yishak climbed Moriah to perform the dress rehearsal for Passover, to tell us where, when, and how Pesach would be fulfilled by the Son of God, providing the lamb. And you go back 40 Yobel from there, and that's when Adam and Chawah were booted out of the garden. And you go 40 Yobel from 33 CE, and you end up at 2033. And it's year 6000, yeah. And that's when the last three Moed Mikri are going to be fulfilled. The three that, that represent the fall feast, where there's three on the other side that represent the spring feast. The spring feasts have been fulfilled by Dod. The fall feast will be fulfilled in 33 CE, and God's laid out everything that's going to happen on them. We've shared what's going to happen. And, well, the best way to be there and enjoy it, and this is what this program was about, is the Qatsyr harvest. The best way to enjoy it and to ensure you're there is not to wait for it.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's to join us on the Shabbat harvest.
Sooner than later.
Because then you're going to come down in the really high class seats. You're going to watch the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah and all the fireworks that go along with it, and hear Elia is the master of ceremonies. See yours truly beaten by Satan and then roasted there on the Temple Mount. You get to witness it all from the elevated seats in the sky beside Dod and Yahweh, as opposed to being those who are still mortal, who, well, at least they're mortal and they're going to benefit from it. But boy, you want to get off this rock while the getting is good.
That's right.
And the getting is good is in 11 months on Shavuot. The promise of 7, when God does his best work on a Shabbat, 22 May 2026. And between now and then, there's going to be a terror state carved out of the heart of Israel, because the prophets told us it was going to happen. And they told us Israel was going to become indefensible as a result of it.
So how come Yahud, you being so smart that you are, or claim that you are, can't figure that out? Mm-hmm. Why is it that you are unwilling to listen? Even when Yahweh says, listen to him. Mm-hmm. They laid it out. He's got real estate all over the Torah. And can prove it. And yet you still put your fingers in your ears, because you have the same problem you had back then. You refuse to Shema. Just shut up and listen.
Yeah, the reason that there's 1,000 points of light pursuant to the Nakar, this Nakri, this Bashar, this Kol, this Pei, this Adamah, Parah, the man from Edom who saves many, the final Zeroah, is this person known as Yada, is that God realizes that, well, Israel, you had gone 3,470 years, where the text of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms was available to you. Everything that we're sharing with you has been available to you for 3,400 years. And in that time, not one of you has made the proper connection. Now, that's not completely true. There's the prophets, Yeshaya, Yirmiyah, Hosea, Malachi, Yoel, Zechariah. They spoke for Yahweh. They made the connection. But in terms of a rank and file Israeli, not one. Not in all that time. And so if you had gone, for example, since the last of the prophets, Malachi, 2,500 years ago, you've gone 2,500 years without anyone recognizing that Jesus was a complete fraud, and that Dod was the Passover lamb, and that he suffered a crucifixion at the hands of the Romans, as he wrote about it himself, and that he fulfilled Passover to open the doorway to life, and that his soul took our guilt into Sheol on Matzah, and that he, as the Bakor, represents Bekurim, the firstborn children, and that all that occurred in 33 CE, which is year 4000 Yah. It's all been there. most important discovery in human history. It's been there for you to discover. Well, really since the Torah, because the 18th chapter of Devarim speaks specifically about it. It's all been there since Dode wrote about it 3,000 years ago. And it's all been there since Yahowah detailed what was going to occur and what had occurred 2,700 years ago.
And still we're ignorant to it all.
So, but not a single one of you figured it out in all of that time. So how is it that you were going to suddenly figure it out? We've only got now 11 months to the Shabbat harvest and 99 months to the return, following the worst time in Israel's history during the time of Jacob's trouble. How are you going to suddenly figure it out if you've gone all this time without figuring it out? And so that's the reason why God goes to such lengths to say, I'm going to provide a guy that figures it out. His name's going to be Yada, and he is going to Yada Yahowah. And if you choose to listen, then you're going to spend your eternity with me. If you choose to do a block, as did General Quacker, then go paddle off on your own and see how well you do.
Paddle off. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Kirk, you, Kevin, Leah, and Rich here, we're all participating in this. You've read every book. You've challenged everything you've said. Leah's first comment to me, who the hell are you and why are you doing this? I mean, that's how we started. Talk about copping an attitude. Who the hell are you and why you're doing this? And oh, by the way, she wasn't actually being mean. That was Leah's way of being nice. She had just spent like the last 3 weeks without sleep reading these books because they were so compelling. She said, it's just like everything that I've ever wanted to know and no one dared say is in these books. And I'm just like, I'm living these books because this is the greatest discovery of my life. And at the end of that 3 weeks, she says, so who are you and why are you the one that's telling us this? And something at the time, I didn't know the answer. And I knew why I was doing it. And that was that Yahweh had asked that I serve him in this way and serve his people. But I knew that. And I knew that I was correctly rendering his name and his testimony and sharing insights that were profoundly important. I knew those things. But I don't think at that point, going back 18 years ago, that I was aware of these prophecies of the Chodar and the Nakri and the Bashar, and even of Yada being the name that Yahweh gave to me, and Yada Yahowah being the book, the title. I was writing under the name Yada Yahowah long before I knew that Yahweh came up with the name.
So now when Yahuds say things like, well, who the hell do you think you are? I have the answer.
That's the answer.
I have the answer straight from the Torah. Not my own words, not my opinion. You feel?
Yes.
From the Torah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. So I have the answer now.
Yeah, we were a good Jewish friend, someone I've also known for over 20 years, called today. And he says, yesterday you were talking about how the 27th chapter of Devarim actually introduces the 11th chapter of Yahowah with the 7 spirits of Yahweh serving to enable a witness. And it actually presents it right there. And it says that, there'll be an individual that Yahweh will use to communicate through that's going to have the multiple spirits of Yahweh. And there's only one person in human history. I don't tell you this because of me. I'm telling this because of you.
Because you need to know. We already know.
I already know.
We already Yada Yahowah.
I know. You can't have life more than eternal life. I've already got eternal life. I've already got an inheritance from Yahweh. I already am part of his family. I'm not doing this for me.
No, we've reconciled our relationship with
God's
Yahweh.
not doing this for me.
No,
he gives me lots of credit because that's just the way he is. He's a credit sharer. It's his style is he likes to give the people who work with him I think, undue credit for what they're doing, but that's his style, and we're not going to change his style. But the very fact is that I've already got, so everybody in this room, we already have everything that we could possibly want.
Did you just say undue credit?
Undue.
We're doing what Moshe said, kill me because I can't do this.
That's true.
He walked in here today and said, your people are so I said, my people? Oh, no. Look what I've done. I've changed. They're not my people. I'm going to take the same attitude Yahweh has. I'm sorry. No, I know how harassable they are and have been and continue to be. No, I have a new family. That's Yahweh's family. That's my home. And if you want me to open the door or him to open the door for you, you need to listen.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely true that we are not doing this for ourselves.
No.
We are doing this for you. And it's, this is not like a hobby. You have Rich, who sold everything and moved to this island so that he could be the captain of the cable so that we could actually do these shows. What a terrific gift. The man has given you his life for you to know what we know. Is he going to live one day longer than infinity because of this? No.
No.
You're inheriting the universe. How much more can you want?
And every single member of his family said he was crazy.
Yeah, and look at Leah. She jumped on a boat and cruised here with me, and we built this home and house together. And all we do is focus on sharing Torah.
Torah.
With
Yada Yahowah 24/7.
Yes. So God's not doing this for me.
No.
He's not doing this for any reason. And I'm not doing this for me. I've already got everything.
This is for you, Yisrael, and those who sojourn with you. All are welcome. But you have to take your fingers out of your damn ears.
Yes. And at this point, the door is as wide open for Goyim as it is for Yehuda. It's interesting that in the introductory presentation of the Nakri and Solomon's speech at the commencement of the house of Yahweh's name on Towrah, this would be 7 years after year 3000 Yah, which was 968 BCE. So 7 years later would be 961 BCE on Towrah. And he's having the speech. And when he speaks of the Nakri introducing Yahweh's name, reintroducing Yahweh's name, describing the service of the Passover lamb of Dod, he says, when his voice comes out of the atmosphere, out of the sky via the satellites, you need to listen to what he says, and you need to do everything he says. And then he talks about the providing benefit first to the Goyim and then simultaneously to Yisrael. So our mission isn't strictly Yisrael. God has been very clear that the same Torah, the same covenant, the same Yahweh is available to everyone, Goyim or Yisraelite. And so particularly as we move towards the Shabbat harvest. The Shabbat harvest is as open to Goyim as it is open to Israelites. And we come at it through the same Torah and through the same Messiah, through the same God, through the same covenant, through the same Moed Mikra. But it is open to all, and that is going to close. Now, if you are a Goyim, you need to know you got 11 months to figure this out. And it's all laid out for you. It's an open book test, so it shouldn't be hard, but you got 11 months to figure this out. And then if you are a Yehudim, well, you have 99 more months to figure this out. You better recognize that 2/3 of you aren't going to live through it. So you may want to get your act together
sooner than later.
Soon. And the advantage of getting your act together soon, beyond the fact that you're certain to be part of eternity going forward, is that then you actually have a chance of studying and then teaching, and of engaging with us and making a difference
and growing Yahweh's family.
Yeah. Can you imagine getting from the point that we're doing this? I said I'm doing it to please Yahweh. That is why I'm doing it. This is what He wants. I like to please Him. I think that's a really good idea, and I've been assigned to be the herald of the King, and so I happen to respect Dode. I like Dode. I'm delighted to work for Dode and to serve Dode. But can you imagine if you are a Yehudim and you're listening to this, and you can go from being so self-indulgent that you actually think that you're in a sound position there with Israel, and that everybody loves you, and that you have the best of everything, and you are just the hottest thing going in the world, to recognizing that you have spit in God's face for 3,000 plus years, and then going to the point where you actually embrace Yahweh, view Him as your Father, gain participation in His covenant family, have your inheritance returned, and then you go the next step and you start serving Him, you start working with Him, you start reaching out to other members of His people, so that more people can join us and forevermore. And now you're doing something that will have an eternal reward. So you've gone from being an aggravating deadbeat that's got a bad attitude to somebody who has pleased God by embracing His name and His Son and knowing the truth and capitalizing upon it, to someone who is actually making a contribution that you can look to God for the rest of your eternity and know that when He makes eye contact with you, He's pleased with you because you did more than just save yourself. You made a contribution that made eternity better. And that's the opportunity for you. You can't win this war that you're fighting now, but you can win that one. And that's the best battle of all to fight.
Hear, hear. Step 1, get your ish together. Step 2, unplug your ears. Step 3, listen to Him.
What do you think there, Captain Cable?
Couldn't say it better.
Captain Cable, I like it.
Yeah, I think we've said it all. I think Rich is still a little white-faced from what he witnessed downstairs with Wookie and Asher.
Yeah, it was not the family show.
It was not the family show. But dogs will be dogs. And one of the things that is just amazing about dogs is that they are loving. They were just happy to be around each other, enjoy one another's company. It was nothing but tail wagging and playfulness and happiness. And when you look at God chose the name for the first child of the covenant, did He not?
Mm-hmm.
Laughter.
Laughter.
Yeah.
Yishak means laughter. So I don't think God's got anything against two dogs wagging their tails.
Wookie and Ash are getting frisky.
And having a fun time together. And listen, they're, the boy dog weighs about 15 pounds and the girl dog weighs about 70 pounds. And so,
like big women,
it's not like they're getting frisky. They're playing with each other. They're having fun.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that God's got a soft spot for that. And that's why we bring the dogs in to be part of this program. There were only 2 of the original cast of characters of the 600,000 that were allowed into the promised land. And one of them was named Dog, Goleb. So there is a reason for that. And that's the reason they make such great companions and bring so much joy and happiness to our lives. And
they are truly sweet on each other.
Yeah, they are. They're exceedingly happy and laughing and fun and tail wagging and this sort of thing. So that's the best explanation spin I've got on it, Rich. Is that okay with you?
That's good.
So how far did we get into Torah?
we got right into the Torah, but on our script we're way behind.
We're way off script.
Well, we've spent a lot of time talking about the upcoming harvest and what is required of Israel and of anyone. Goyim as well to participate. That is our script.
Yeah.
And the recognition that Israel, that you are full of yourselves and have a really crappy attitude and have had a crappy attitude towards God for a long time. And that until you are willing to accept his name, celebrate his name, share his name, acknowledge his name as Yahweh, and acknowledge his beloved son, Dod, as your Savior and as the Messiah and the returning King, and have an appreciation for the 5 conditions of the covenant, the first of which is that you need to walk away from religion, that you cannot be religious anymore. And it's walk away from Babel. And do I have to remind you where the Talmud was written?
No.
And until you do that and you walk to God and allow him to perfect you, which only happens when you observe matzah, which is a day that you completely ignore because you've expanded Passover to 7 days, not recognizing that Passover without matzah is counterproductive. And you just, there's so many things that you have to adjust in your thinking and changing your attitude to embrace the truth. And the smartest thing you can do is, rather than being a general quacker and blocking all of this, is to do what everyone around me this evening has done. Put it to the test. Go to YAHOWAH.com and start reading and put it to the test. And when every single word, every single insight resonates deep within your soul, then respond. And you'll join us. And you'll make the world a better place. All right, Shabbat Shalom to
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Leah, for Kevin, for Kirk, and for Rich there with your cables and your magic fingers and all the things. There he is. There he is.
Only temporary. Up the camera actually shut off.
And he went to black. But you can see the beauty of Rich is he has moved into island mode. He has got his Hawaiian shirt on.
There you go.
He has got his
part of our dress code.
He's got his beard going. He did find out that we have a dress code here. It's called Island. And the thing
right.
too that we can say that somebody might say, well, you need to be dressed better to be more respectful of God. What is Elia, who speaks for you? What did he say about our dress?
That we are dressed appropriately.
That is correct. So
They were naked in the garden.
this is Yahowah casual, baby, and we exemplify it and love it and celebrate it and want you to enjoy it and celebrate it with us. Well, good night, y'all. May Yah bless you all. Happy Shabbat to one and all.
Sure.
Shabbat Shalom.